Women's soccer earns their first win of the season. Volleyball faces 2 straight conference opponents. NFL Week 4 comes to a close, while the MLB postseason is here. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Bryn Reese. To kick things off, Point Park Soccer had quite the afternoon last Sunday as men's and women's soccer traveled to West Virginia to take on the Salem Tigers in a non-conference matchup. Both Point Park teams walked away with the dub, marking the women's team's first win of the season. The ladies were dominant on both sides of the field against the Tigers. Despite walking away with a 1-0 final score, the Pioneers were booming on offense, combining for 15 shot attempts and 9 shots on target. Defender Cara Spry scored the sole goal in the 28th minute for her first of the season. In addition, first-year Clara Bring recorded 3 shots on frame. On the other side of the field, the Tigers were real quiet. Salem put up 3 shots total and only managed 2 attempts on goal, both saved by Point Park goalie Maggie Pappas. The Pioneers advanced to a 1-4-2 record overall and sit at 5th place in the MEC North Division with an 0-3-1 conference record. The ladies return to Highmark Stadium tonight, searching for their first ever conference win in the Mountain East. They face Davis and Elkins, a team that has not won a game since September of last year. Moving to the second matchup of the day, the men's game ended 4-3, coming down to the wire in a surprising nail-biter. The Pioneers took an impressive 4-0 lead after a dominant first period, but with only 32 minutes left, the Tigers began an unexpected rally. In this small window of time, Salem chipped away at their deficit, scoring 3 goals and combining for 7 shots on target. The Tigers scored their third and final goal with 6 minutes remaining and attempted 1 more shot on goal in the 86th minute. Point Park's David Ali recorded 7 saves and allowed all 3 of Salem's goals. Game leaders included Ruben Coppers with 1 goal and 2 attempts on frame, Javier Morjon with 1 goal and 2 assists, as well as Edward Bowers and Niels Benning with 1 goal each. Once again, the Pioneers faced some foul trouble, combining for 11 fouls and 4 yellow cards. Point Park improves to a 3-4-1 record overall and are 5th in the MEC with a 2-3-1 conference record. The men's team also returns to Highmark tonight to face Davis and Elkins. The Senators sit above the Pioneers at 4th place in the MEC. Stay tuned for more updates, and as always, good luck, Pioneers. When we come back, more on Point Park sports from this past week. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Cross-country zone Gabe Ebersol will be reporting on what happened at the Lock Haven Invitational. Gabe?
Thanks, Bryn. Point Park Cross Country was up early on Saturday, both the men's and women's squads racing at the Lock Haven Cross Country Invitational. The men towed the line first at 10 a.m., 9 Point Park athletes in the men's 8K Crimson race. Sophomore Luke McKenna showed out again, breaking his own 8K school record from last meet. His time of 25:18 was good enough for 17th overall and an award. Senior Elijah James set a big PR with a time of 26:30, while freshmen also met the challenge head-on. Chase Bowen, Ike Vanderlee, and Albin Petschauer all finished in the low 27s. As a unit, the Pioneers finished 11th out of 27 teams on the men's side with 379 points. The 8 women participating in the 6K Crimson race were up next. Cassandra O'Connor followed up her intriguing sideline interview with a phenomenal race this past Saturday, her 21:45 finishing 8th in the field and earning an award. From there, experience rounded out the scoring for the Pioneers. Jana Schmid, Allison Placio, and twins Sophia and Corinne Lee Hauser, all seniors, finished within a 62-second split from 22:44 to 23:46. The strong team performance placed Point Park 6 out of 30 teams on the women's side. Lastly, 4 women ran in the 6K white race for PPU. Not having the required 5 runners to total a team score, this race was highlighted by freshmen Paige McMahon and Paige Marnell, both completing their first collegiate 6Ks and placing in the top 40 of the race, posting times of 26 flat and 26:08. The Pioneers race again this week, both the men's and women's teams heading out to Kentucky to compete in the 23rd Annual Greater Louisville Classic on October 5th. Good luck, Pioneers. Now, I'll be sending things over to Peyton Celesti to report on volleyball's recent conference games. Peyton?
Thanks, Gabe. The volleyball Pioneers were off to an extremely rugged start to their season, going 0-6 in their first 6 games. Although non-conference wins are nice, it's most important to gain enough improvement in those games to hit the ground running in conference play. And it looks as though the Pioneers have found their stride in their first 2 Mountain East Conference games. After sweeping Davis Elkins last Thursday in their first ever Mountain East matchup, the Pioneers had their first ever home conference game against Frostburg State on Tuesday night. The Pioneers saw this young Bobcats team earlier in the season in the Vulcan tournament, and while the Pioneers fell in 5 sets, that game did not count towards conference play. Although both teams made around the same amount of attack and service errors on the night, the Pioneers were much more efficient on offense and sustained close leads throughout their 3-1 victory. The Bobcats looked out of sorts in the first set, helping the Pioneers win by their biggest margin of the night, 25-17. After losing the second set 25-23, Point Park took control and stayed within their game despite a strong and determined effort by Frostburg State, winning both sets 25-20 and 25-22 respectively. Senior Raquel Tessari was on fire on offense from the get-go, leading the Pioneers with 14 kills. And Point Park graduate Elise Wallace continued to be the foundation of the offense with 36 assists and 3 service aces. Libero and sophomore Mia Arndt used her elite athleticism to be Point Park's top defender, calculating 28 digs. Junior Haley Stormer and graduate Julia Follador dominated in the front row, as Stormer contributed with a team-leading 4 blocks and 8 kills on the night. Eden McElhaney finished second on the team in kills with 11 and had 2 service aces. That's all for Point Park Sports. Visit pointparksports.com to stay updated. Back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, guys. When we come back, find out what else is happening in the sports world. Don't go anywhere.
Take them cue and open their mics.
Saturday marked the one-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Now we have Nick Stramito reporting on what's happening locally. Nick?
Thanks, Bryn. Starting off, Pitt quarterback Eli Holstein has won ACC Rookie of the Week all 4 weeks Pitt has played. He has a total of 12 touchdowns, which is more than any quarterback had for Pitt through 4 games last season, and has helped Pitt record the first 4-0 start since 2000. They look to become 5-0 for the first time since 1991, when they traveled to Chapel Hill to take on UNC at noon on Saturday. Pitt has struggled facing UNC on the road, as they have lost all their past 7 meetings in UNC. Moving on to the Buccos, they have parted ways with hitting coach Andy Haynes, bullpen coach Justin McCage, and strength and conditioning coach Adam Vish after their 76-86 season. The Pirates look to make some drastic changes after another season of missing the playoffs. On to the Penguins. They took on the Detroit Red Wings in preseason action last night. The Penguins fell 2-1, with the lone goal being scored by forward Ricardo Rakell. The Penguins' next preseason game will be tomorrow against the Columbus Blue Jackets at Nationwide Arena. The puck drops at 7 p.m. Lastly, the Steelers finally fell for the first time this season, losing to the Indianapolis Colts 27-24. Quarterback Justin Fields led the team with 312 passing yards and 55 rushing yards. Fields also recorded 2 rushing touchdowns while also throwing a passing touchdown to tight end Pat Freiermuth. The Steelers' next game is Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium versus the Dallas Cowboys. Kickoff is scheduled for 8:20. That's all locally. Now I'll be sending things over to Jonas Summers to report on a crazy NFL week.
Thanks, Nick. The NFL's in full swing, and the yearly craziness came this week. Between blowout games, game-winning field goals, Randy Moss-style touchdowns, and scary injuries, there's a lot to talk about. But here's some of the key takeaways from this week. The passing game was on fire this week. Geno Smith led the league on Monday in Seattle's loss to Detroit. Jordan Love showed up in his return from his Week 1 injury in Green Bay's loss. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs bounced back against Philly, where Baker threw for 347. Ball carriers did their thing too. Derrick Henry led all ball carriers with 199 rushing yards, while Jordan Mason stepped up a few weeks ago to replace the injured CMC and help the Niners to a Week 4 win over New England. Receivers showed up, and a lot of young budding guys here. Nico Collins led the league, followed by Jaden Reed. Then the young ballers Malik Neighbors and George Pickens gave us a look at what's to come in the NFL. And the Ravens were gifted the task of snapping the strong 3-0 start by Buffalo by going to Highmark Stadium, where Bills Mafia was in full attendance. Derrick Henry was a force to be reckoned with early on with an 83-yard rushing touchdown to open up the dominant scoring of the Ravens backfield. This 3-headed monster of the Ravens backfield just gets a little bit stronger as Ravens go up 7-0 in the first. The Bills responded with a field goal of their own. Then Lamar slides out of the pocket, dumps one off to Henry again in the flat, where he will pick up his second touchdown of the half. Then just a few minutes later, Lamar drops back on 2nd and 7 and goes deep to yet another back. Justice Hill in the receptions. Ravens take the lead 21-3. But the Bills stated their case as to why they were 3-0 when Josh Allen scrambles and throws off his back foot and goes deep to Khalil Shakir. Ty Johnson gets the call on 1st and goal and gives Buffalo their first touchdown of the night. Then on this weird lateral play that was very poorly executed, Allen gets stripped, and it's Kyle Hamilton, the 2023 draft pick out of Notre Dame, on the recovery. The Ravens go right back to the ground game on 1st and goal later in the drive, and Lamar showed why he is the 2-time MVP, puts the Ravens up 28-10 in the 4th. Ravens cap this one off in an impressive AFC victory, and the 3-headed monster just gets a little bit scarier. And some trouble in paradise with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and their loss to Denver. The ball was slipping all day for both teams and kept the scoring affair to a minimum. But this play was really the only real highlight for the Jets all day, which makes you wonder, when can this offense get its keys to success? Is Aaron Rodgers still the answer to a playoff push for this young skill core? Bo Nix dropped back on 3rd and 7 after missing his targets all day to get veteran receiver Cortland Sutton and the Broncos their first and only lead of the game. After lacking defense all day, the Jets were able to put up 3 field goals with their chance to win it. But no, Broncos come out on top, and the Jets look to be in some real trouble here early on in the season. So a supposed easy win for the Jets turns into an offensive disaster and something that will come back to haunt them if Rodgers wants to take this young squad to a playoff victory. And on to one of football's best young stars, Rashee Rice suffered a devastating knee injury against the Chargers on Sunday after Mahomes threw an interception. The second-year receiver came out to make a tackle and ran into his own teammate. He was then carted off the field, and we have no further update on this injury, but a devastating blow to the powerful Chiefs offense. But what does this mean for Mahomes and the Chiefs? It's really hard to lose a guy like this because it forces everyone else to step up. And we know that Xavier Worthy was a standout in his time at college, but during week 1 of the NFL, is he really ready to fill the shoes that Rashee Rice is in? But hey, that's all for me. Edmi Adalis gives us an update on the MLB postseason. Edmi?
Thanks, Jonah. The Major League Baseball postseason has officially started. The teams going straight into the divisional series with the first round bye are the Los Angeles Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies, New York Yankees, and Cleveland Guardians. The wild card series was finalized after an impactful doubleheader on Monday, September 30th, between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. The Arizona Diamondbacks needed a sweep by either team to make the postseason. However, the Mets and Braves split the series, leaving the Diamondbacks out of the postseason. The wild card series opened on Tuesday, October 1st with matchups between the Detroit Tigers versus Houston Astros and the Kansas City Royals versus Baltimore Orioles for the American League, with the National League matchups being the Mets versus Milwaukee Brewers and the Braves versus San Diego Padres. The Tigers had a quick start over the Astros with all their runs scored in the second inning, which ultimately was enough to win the game with the final score of 3-1. The Royals won their first game 1-0 against the Orioles, with both teams showing a strong defensive effort. Cole Ragans and Bobby Witt Jr. were standouts for the Royals. Ragans pitched 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts, and Witt bringing in the only run with an RBI in the 6th inning. It was a back-and-forth battle for the Mets and Brewers, ending in an upset with the Mets outscoring the Brewers. They went into the 5th inning with Brewers leading 4-3, but with an explosive performance, the Mets come out on top with winning score of 8-5. The day ended with the Padres shutting out the Braves 4-0, led by a dominating performance from pitcher Michael King, pitching 7 shutout innings and striking out 12 batters. The divisional series will pick up on Saturday, October 5th, where we will see how the top teams are faring after their break. Is there going to be a Christmas movie about the Chiefs? Jill Musser is in the studio with more info. Jill?
Thanks, Edmi. As the winter months approach, some fans gather for Sunday Night Football, while others are preparing for the new line of holiday movies courtesy of Hallmark. But what if there was a way to bring both of these groups together? Back in September, it was announced that Hallmark would be collaborating with the Kansas City Chiefs for the new original movie Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. The film stars Hallmark Channel staples Tyler Hynes and Hunter King. The story focuses on Alana and her family who enter to win the Chiefs Superfan Award. During evaluations, the Chiefs Director of Fan Engagement catches feelings for Alana. While it may appear that this collaboration was inspired by Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce's relationship with singer Taylor Swift, this has not been confirmed. To promote the film, Hallmark will be bringing their experience straight to the GEHA field at Arrowhead Stadium. On November 29th, the Chiefs will face off against the Las Vegas Raiders a day before the film's premiere. When entering, pendants-themed Chiefs and the Hallmark Channel will be given out. All season long, fans can partake in a branded tailgate area reserved for Hallmark for hot cocoa, a photo booth, and more surprises yet to be announced. A twist on the celebrity look-alike cam will also be featured, where crowd-goers will be given Hallmark titles for the duration of the season. Fans should also keep a lookout for exclusive merchandise. Heads of both companies are thrilled about the collaboration. Chief Brand Officer of Hallmark, Darren Abbott, said, quote, "This holiday season, Hallmark is all about bringing joy to the world. Our new partnership with the NFL and Chiefs is uniquely designed to do just that," end quote. Kansas City Chief President Mark Donovan stated, quote, "With the excitement of the start of the football season and the holiday season on the horizon, there is no better way to highlight this partnership and announce the premiere date than to leverage one of Kansas City's biggest parties, Chiefs Game Day," end quote. Are players really sitting out the full season because of NIL deals? Ronan Lancaster is here with an update. Ronan?
Thanks, Jill. It was an interesting week in college football as UNLV took a big loss at their quarterback position. Matthew Sluka, who was the starting QB for UNLV the first 3 games, announced he will be sitting out for the rest of the season. Sluka said he was promised things when he came to UNLV, but has since realized that those things that were promised were never going to happen. He was promised $100,000 in NIL money and did not receive that. Sluka reportedly only received $3,000 of the $100,000 he was promised when he transferred, per Pete Thamel. UNLV later refuted these claims, saying football player Matthew Sluka's representative made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective in order to continue playing, per UNLV Athletics. UNLV took these demands as violation of the pay-for-play rules. Later that day, running back Michael Allen announced on social media that he would be sitting out for the rest of the season and redshirting as well. Allen said, expectations for opportunities unfortunately were not met. He later went on to say his decision was not NIL related. Things are not amazing in UNLV currently, but UNLV was able to move to 4-0 on Saturday, September 28th, after a win over Fresno State. The final score is 59-14, and the new starter, Haj Malik Williams, went 13 for 16, posting 3 passing touchdowns on the day, giving some relief to UNLV fans. That's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you, Bryn.
Thanks, everyone. When we come back, we discuss what's to come for the Pittsburgh Penguins in our Case of the Week. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. The start of the Pittsburgh Penguins season is right around the corner. With the departure of Jake Gensel at the trade deadline last season, and with new additions joining the Penguins roster over the summer, questions have been raised over who should be on the top line with team captain Sidney Crosby. I'm Megan Lukic, and I'm joined now by Ryan Thiele, Jake Leviski, and Ryan Jones to debate the Penguins' options. So, Ryan, we'll start with you. Who do you think should be on Crosby's line this season?
Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious here. I mean, we've seen throughout the preseason, we've seen how this line has been going off, and we think Brian Rust is a must. I think Sid and Rust play super, super well, and I mean, of course, Jake was gone now. Jake used to play on that line. We need to fill his role. And yes, Rust kind of brings the heat. He's a fast guy, and I mean, Sidney Crosby, anyone who plays with Sidney Crosby is good. And they get better, because Sid just makes everyone better. I mean, that's an obvious. I think we need to add more speed to this line, and I think the best fit, which we've seen in the preseason, is Anthony Beauvillier. I think Beauvillier is a great addition to the team in general, and I think it's just horrible to be able to put him down on the second and third line when he really has shown in the preseason. I mean, credit. Has that line got too many points? Not really. But you see the progression that he's making. He's getting more comfortable with the team. People are arguing McGroarty and all these other guys. I think McGroarty should start down in Wilkes-Barre, give him a few months, and then bring him up. And if he gets that spot, go right ahead. He can get in that spot and work his way up, because he'll end up being a way better player if we just boost him up there. I think that Beauvillier should be on that front line.
Yeah, I think Beauvillier is a good player, but Drew O'Connor's the easy answer here. The Penguins finished strong on the end of the season with Drew O'Connor being with Sid. Drew O'Connor will get 25 goals with Sidney Crosby this year. You can count me on that. And another guy, Rutger McGroarty. If he does make the team, I want him with Sid. As you mentioned, Sid is easy to play with. And a young guy like McGroarty, that'd be easy for him to come into the NHL. Sid's going to put it right on the tape for you. Just put your stick down and we'll score right in the net.
I mean, but have you watched him throughout this preseason? I mean, McGroarty, he's scared. He's scared. And that's okay. He's young. He's just getting into the NHL. He's just feeling the ice for the first time. And you see these guys who come up. You see it in every sport. It's not just hockey. You have these minor guys who come up and they're like, oh, this guy's going to be him. He's going to be the best. And you bring him up and you put him in that spotlight, and then they just don't turn out well enough. And they play pretty well throughout that first few weeks. Then they start to fall off. If you start him off small in Wilkes-Barre and boost him up, he's going to become a way better of a player than he would be if he were to just start right at the top.
But the thing, I don't want him in the bottom 6, because if you're in the bottom 6, you're not going to get that much minutes. You're not going to play in the top power play. If you're in the bottom 6, as you mentioned, you're better off going to the AHL. You get 20 minutes a night, play PP1. That's where you should develop.
I have to agree with you. I mean, disagree with you. I think he should be in the bottom 6. I mean, I get it. We should send him to Wilkes-Barre, get some time in Wilkes-Barre. But honestly, if he's supposed to be this top talent that everyone's been talking about this preseason, and when we got him, I think he should be on the bottom 6 to get some NHL time. It's kind of like, well, let's go back to the argument we had with the Pirates. Should Paul Skeens be up at the start, or should we bring him up later? It's just the same exact talk we're been having, just in a different sport. I think we should play him in the bottom 6. Now I'm going to go with my top line. I think we should get the guy that we traded Jake Gensel for, Michael Bunting, as the other side of the top line. We traded him up there for a reason, and that was just to replace Jake Gensel because we couldn't afford Jake. Let's just be realistic. We can't afford Jake. I mean, we were all sad that he left, but Michael Bunting is the answer. He is a prototype Chris Kunitz. I know you guys look at me weird when I say that. He is a younger version of him who likes to play in front of the net, who does the dirty work for Crosby. And we look at Crosby's numbers with Chris, and then without Chris, it's a little different because Chris did the dirty work for Crosby. And Michael's going to do that with having younger legs. And yes, Brian Rust is also going to be in the area to start for him because that gives the speed. We got the speed, the guy who's playing the dirty, and then the Crosby. That's, my opinion, should be our perfect starting lineup. And then, yes, if that rookie does come up and play very well, we should plug him up with Crosby to see how he does with the big dogs. And Drew O'Connor should be down the second line to be with Raquel because he gets the speed for Raquel and the speed for Malkin as well. And then we got the skill with Raquel, and then we got Malkin, who's the centerpiece for that second line. So if we're going to go back to what we were saying with Crosby, I think Bunting should be in that top line.
Okay, I agree with you that Bunting's good. I agree that he was an okay pickup for Gensel. It's sad. We all love Gensel, but we got to work with what we have now, and that's Bunting. I disagree completely. I think Bunting should not even be close to the first line. Now, I guess you could say close. That's okay. You're going to put him on the second line here. Yep. If you watch Malkin, Malkin's good. He finds out to be in the right spot at the right times, but if you just watch him, he's lazy. He doesn't do all the work. Everyone does work for him, and he ends up in the right spot. You need a guy like Bunting to be able to come down and to be able to carry that second line. If he's good enough to be on the first line, we need to focus on the next 3 because we do not have that type of room that Bunting gives for the first line on the next 3. We need to place him on the second line.
That's why I put O'Connor on that second line. It's because O'Connor can do the work, in which we have seen this preseason, end of last year. He's done the dirty work. That's why I want him on that second line with Malkin, with Raquel. So he should be on that second line, put Bunting on that first line. Because Bunting does the dirty work, but I still think Connor needs a little more time on the second line before we can even put him up on the first line.
You take a look at last year, Bunting on the second line was a beast with Malkin. That was one of the reasons why we got a playoff push to begin with. But with Beauvillier, I don't think he's physical enough to play with Sid. Sid needs guys that are not afraid to go in front of the net. And Drew O'Connor, he's fast, not afraid to go in front of the net, and be a beast with Sid.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.